Yo, what's good people? Welcome back to the series where I review the new champions coming out in MCOC and I answer the question, will they be good for Battlegrounds? And Bastion, hell yeah, he was worth every last bit of hype. He's a great attacker, a mutant nuker, but he's great for much more outside of the mutant class as well. He's very versatile, his damage is great, his utility is great, he's even a pretty solid defender. He's not the hardest champion in the game to fight by any means, but I can definitely see this guy catching a lot of people on defense. So in this video, I'll be explaining Bastion's best rotation specifically for Battlegrounds. We're going to be looking over which matchups he's best for, what he counters. I'll be teaching you all how to fight him as well. So let's dive into that. We're just starting with a Winter Soldier fight just so I can do this little opening here. But now we're going to move on to some Battleground simulation fights. Every single defender I fight in this video has the same amount of health as if they were a rank 3 defender placed on Battlegrounds defense. Now Bastion is built as a onslaught counter. He can parry non-contact attacks, so you can freely parry onslaught, and you can see that I got hit in the face and I just regened it all back. Why is that? Well, when onslaught breaks your block with that crush debuff, or your block gets broken by unblockable, you will gain a instant self-repair passive, and this will let you instantly regenerate any of the damage you take from when you're crushed, or if you get hit by a unblockable hit. You do have to be blocking when they hit you though, because it does have to break your block. Now the next matchup, Bastion is easily one of the best, one of the safest bullseye counters in the game. He has that pursuit passive on his heavy attack, so you can easily maintain that the entire match and completely turn off bullseye's evade. We're not going to be taking any bleed damage. Bastion is 100% resistant to bleed and poison. On top of that, whenever we would take bleed damage, we're going to gain a regeneration buff. You can have up to 2 of these active at a time. Whenever bullseye throws a special attack or even hits your block, you will gain this regeneration buff. So it's so easy to finish at 100% health against bullseye, which is such a massive W. There's barely any champions in the game that can do that unless you can dex bullseye special 1, because even if you don't take bleed damage, those special attacks still crit through your block and they still hit very hard. Bastion is for sure one of the best bullseye counters we've ever seen. You saw in that last match we nuked it in 40 seconds. We were doing the optimal rotation. You ideally want to bait out special 2s against bullseye just because it's faster, but thought I'd show another fight where I bait out his special 1 and just play it safe, just to show you how good he really is for bullseye. I don't play this fight perfectly whatsoever and we still come out at 100% health. I'm not even trying to rush this fight. I'm taking my sweet ass time and we still finish in under a minute. Bastion's damage is so good, and the nice thing about it is it's very reliable. He's not reliant on crit RNG like a lot of other champions are, because most of his damage comes from guaranteed burst damage on his specials. But you're probably asking, trappers, how do I play this guy? Maybe you're lucky enough to pull him. Well, lucky for you, he's very easy to play and I love that about him. Now, he has a passive disintegration of his heavy attack, and a rule of Bastion is you want to have this disintegration active at all times pretty much. So you start the match out with a heavy attack, and if that disintegration falls off, you just land another heavy attack. Now what you want to do is just land combos, building up your power to about 2.5 bars of power. You see those infection charges underneath Weapon X. You want to get to 30 of those and then you will enter into your infection. This is when you want to throw your special 2. This will grant you 2 passive furies, and after you got those furies, you just want to keep spamming special 1s until those furies fall off. If you're in a Battlegrounds fight, don't worry, those furies are never falling off. Anything is going to be nuked long before that happens. The only other thing you really need to know is that you just land the second hit of your heavy attack into a special if you want to apply your disintegration again. This doesn't do anything special, it's just a faster, easier way to apply the disintegration, doing this Shuri matchup here, just to show that he can parry non-contact attacks. That's not just against mutant champions, so he's great against champions like Shuri that you can't normally parry. That was a 40-second nuke. Pretty much anything gets nuked with a special 2 into special 1 with Bastion. If it's a bigger health pool, it's just going to take 2 special 1s, but pretty much anything you'll use Bastion for will not survive anything past that. Let me explain Bastion's utility in a little more detail, just so I can explain how his signature ability works better. So you see those virus charges which I mentioned earlier, well, each one of those actually decreases the ability accuracy of the opponent's non-instant energy damaging effects. So these are things like onslaught's neuroshocks. The more charges you have on your opponent, the more likely you are to fail stuff like the neuroshocks. Keep in mind though, this only stacks up to a 40% chance, 60% chance against mutants. With the signature ability, this is actually expanded to non-personal effects, so you'll be able to ignore energy damage from nodes in some circumstances. Bastion definitely does not need his dupe at all. He's good to go unduped, but the dupe does give a couple of nice benefits, like expanding that utility to non-personal effects as well. On top of that, when a mutant gains regeneration or prowess, all of your personal effects like your disintegration will be paused, and you get extra fury potency scaling up with the sig. It's up to 30%. He's definitely good to go unduped, but the dupe is a nice benefit. I wouldn't feed this guy 6 stones. I don't think he needs them at all. You might be watching the gameplay and thinking, damn, this champion, he's thrown a lot of special attacks. He seems to be gaining a lot more power than other champions. Well, yeah, that's because when Bastion inflicts his virus on the opponent, he's going to also inflict a power reroute passive, which basically grants you extra combat power rate, so you can just spam a lot more special attacks than other champions. He's a decent option for Domino. He doesn't hard counter her. You'll see at the end of this match, I do take some critical failure damage, so he's going to nuke Domino. You're going to come out of this fight about 90% health most of the time. He's definitely a good option. Definitely not a hard Domino counter though, because he does still take some critical failure damage. Great counter for Dust. As you can imagine, Dust has those annoying non-contact attacks, so you can't always parry her. Well, you can with Bastion. She is pretty tanky. Dust actually has a lot of HP. She's got all that critical resistance. She's a lot more tanky than she looks, but same rotation here with Bastion. Special 2 into special 1 easily nukes her with some overkill on top of it. So as you've been seeing in this video, this guy is really versatile. He can take defenders from every class. No one is immune to disintegration. No one is immune to his damage really. His damage is based on energy damage, so champions with energy resistance will gimp him a little bit, but in general, he's definitely one of the most versatile champions that has been released in a while. But here's a matchup he can't do that well. Havoc. Now, since that armor up he has is passive, Havoc still does detonations to you if you let those plasmas build up. We're going to play this fight like you should, just baiting Havoc special 2. But since our special 2 and special 1 is energy damage, we do end up taking a detonation. Bastion would be able to nuke a unduped Havoc without taking a detonation just fine, but a high sig Havoc, you have no chance. You're pretty much guaranteed to take some damage. Personally, I think that's fine. Like I mentioned, this guy is already very versatile, so him not being able to take Havoc because his armor up is passive, that's totally cool. We got a Nightcrawler here. On our heavy attack, we have that pursuit passive, so Nightcrawler can't really do anything. He can't evade us whatsoever. Hard counters him. My main concern with Bastion when I saw all the deep dives, I was like, damn, this guy is going to make Jack-O-Lantern irrelevant. And Yeah, I think that's going to prove to be a true theory, because the main reason you would run Jack-o'-lantern in your Battlegrounds deck is for onslaught. He can do other fights, but the main reason you would run him is because he's the best onslaught counter, the fastest, well, one of the fastest, because Shocker, he's almost just as good as him, especially if you're punching up with rank 3 versus rank 4s. But now we have Bastion as well, who is just as good against onslaught as Jack is, but he's also much better in other matchups. He's much more versatile, and his source of damage is disintegration, which barely anyone is immune to, unlike Jack-o'-lantern, who relies on incinerate and poison, two debuffs that champions are commonly immune to. So while I still think Jack-o'-lantern is good, I do think Bastion is going to take his place in most top players' Battlegrounds decks. But how is Bastion on defense? He's solid. I think you're going to want to use this guy on attack more than defense, but he's definitely a annoying defender that can stall. You might have saw in the first clip that he has a really annoying special one. Once you practice it a few times though, you'll have it down. It's not that hard to dex. Ideally, you want to be pushing him to special 2s though. It's easier to dex and it's quicker. The main threat of this guy on defense is when he places that infection on you. He's going to lower your attack rating by 35%, and he's going to gain extra combat power rate. So even if you know how to fight this guy perfectly, he's definitely going to be a good stall on defense. The champions you just want to use though are buff heavy champions, champions with 3 or more unique buffs, cannot be inflicted with the infection, and in that case he's not really doing that much on defense. He's still got annoying special attacks though, but that's the end of the video. Bastion's great. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you drop a like, subscribe, all of that stuff. See you all in the next video.